I've reached the final 3 Cassette Vision games, and they are a weird lot. All 3 were released at roughly the same time in the winter of 1986, and all 3 were licensed from Namco. I guess Namco got over Epoch stealing the Galaxian name back in the Cassette Vision days. Now, as far as I can tell, Namco didn't develop these ports themselves. It seems like Epoch still did the porting. While the labels credit Namcot, Namco's home entertainment division, everything in the game says Namco, which means they were licensed from the arcade division. If Namco developed the ports themselves, then the in-game credits would say Namcot as well. And because these are ports of popular Namco arcade games, there are some convenient and timely home ports of these games that we can compare them to. And Epoch's work doesn't really stand up to them. Mappy started out in arcades, and this version was fairly successful for Namco. But it's also an arcade game from 1983, has been available on the Famicom since 1984, and virtually simultaneous with the Super Cassette Vision game, Namco's releasing a sequel to Mappy on the Famicom. This is a game incredibly out of time on the Super Cassette Vision. In Mappy, you're playing as a mouse cop engaged in some asset forfeiture against cats that happen to have some stuff you want. Your goal on every stage is to ransack their house, taking all 10 items. Mappy reacts to coming into contact with cats as though he's just seen a photograph of a doorknob that he's been told has fentanyl on it. To deal with the cats, Mappy can slam them with doors. You do that by walking up to a door and hitting either button on the controller. Doors open in the direction that the knob is facing, and anything that's standing where the door opens gets slammed. That includes Mappy, who could go flying backwards as a result. Throwing open the flashing doors sends out a sonic wave that sends all cats in its path flying. They'll re-enter the stage at the top of the screen, eventually dropping down. Getting between floors is handled by the trampolines. You and the cats jump on these and then bounce up to a floor, at which point you hit left or right to hop off. But you can't bounce on the trampoline indefinitely. It'll change colors every time Mappy bounces on it, going from green to blue to yellow to red, and then one more bounce will send Mappy through. The cats can't do anything to you while you're bouncing, you'll just harmlessly pass through them. And there's a short grace period when you're hopping on and off the trampoline that you'll also pass through them. The scoring system in Mappy is actually a little bit complicated, because collecting pairs of items will give you a multiplier to your score. And if you do this consecutively, then the multiplier increases. Since there are 5 different items and each one is worth a different amount of points, there's an optimal path to take through every stage, where you collect the lowest value item first, that'd be the radios, and then the highest valued item last, and that would be the safe. The little cats that are chasing you are called Yankees, while the big cat is Namco. Namco will sometimes hide behind a treasure, and if you collect that treasure while he's hiding, you'll get even more points. After clearing 2 stages, you get a bonus stage, where you have to collect balloons as you bounce around on the trampolines. The timing is extremely tight if you want to collect all of them. Mappy on the Super Cassette Vision has 2 difficulty levels, Amateur and Pro, and the difference between them seems to be the speed of the cats. As for how this version plays, it's pretty bad. One of the primary issues is that the low resolution of the Super Cassette Vision made them zoom in everything very tightly. So now it's rare for you to be able to see other trampoline shafts as you're bouncing. You'll get off on the floor and not be able to know if a cat's coming from that direction. And since the cats are often right behind you, you're going to get pinched like that a lot. Even worse, the starting position for the cats means that there's usually just one way that you can safely go at the start of a stage. Deviating from that path at all would get you trapped. It removes a lot of your ability to strategize in Mappy. You just can't plot out a route around everything. With such tiny visibility, the only way you can make any progress is by playing extremely safe, avoiding stepping off that platform until you know exactly where all the cats are. It's not a fun way to play the game. There's one more issue with this version of Mappy, and that's how the controls are a bit of a mess. Some of this is the bad Super Cassette Vision controller, but some of it's the game itself, and it makes the timing to get off the trampoline weirdly tight. You should move that joystick a lot sooner than you think. As one of the final 3 Super Cassette Vision games, copies of Mappy are incredibly rare and incredibly expensive. It's not uncommon to see this one go for 20,000 yen or more. If you want to play Mappy, you should play the original arcade game. It's the best version all around. With that said, the Famicom version's a pretty good substitute. What you absolutely should not do is play the Super Cassette Vision game. This is a bad port. A very bad port. If this was the only port of Mappy out there, I'd still say keep away from this version of Mappy. I love the original game quite a bit, and this one just hurts to play.